fleas are placed inside the jar and the lid is then sealed. They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behaviour is now set for the rest of their lives. When these fleas reproduce, their offspring will automatically follow their example.
Japanese scientists were observing a species of monkey across a series of islands as they would place sweet potatoes along the shoreline for the monkeys to eat. The sweet potatoes would become covered in sand, preventing the monkeys from eating them, until one young monkey eventually discovered that she could rinse the sweet potato off in the water, washing away the sand and allowing her to eat the potato. Soon after, some of the other monkeys observed this and began rinsing the sweet potatoes off themselves. Over the course of the next 5 years, more and more of the monkeys learned to do this. Then at one point, a critical number of the monkeys had learned to wash their sweet potatoes. And then suddenly, overnight, all of the monkeys began to wash their sweet potatoes, even across the waters onto the surrounding islands and beyond. All of the other monkeys seemed to somehow innately learn how to wash their potatoes. It was like some sort of collective unconsciousness had somehow brought this information to the masses. This is what is called critical mass.
First test. Can chimpanzees count from 1 to 9 in the right order in return for a peanut or other tasty reward? Yes, they can. Now, if you just flash the 9 numerals for a moment, then cover them, can a chimpanzee remember where each numeral was and still get the order they were in right? Yes, for another tasty treat. This chimp got this wrong once, but thought nothing of it and, undaunted, went right back to getting them all correct. Now, can another primate species, the adult Homo sapien, do the same? Well, okay. And again? 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 One more try? Well, okay. But actually, chimpanzees did much better than humans in this flash and remember test, leaving the Japanese human researchers scratching their heads. One possible theory, chimpanzees care more than humans about peanuts.
Hello family, welcome back to the Two Deep Convos channel. I'm your host, Alexander. Hey, what you doing on my bed, bro? But chill out with that. Anyways, I'm not doing no editing or nothing, man. I'm just gonna throw that in there too. This video is not gonna be too much long, man, but too long. But it's really gonna be about breaking y'all out the damn matrix and helping y'all to identify the conditioning that we're under, helping y'all to identify the NPC culture that we live in. And it gets crazy, man. I might even throw a video of like the NPC TikTok trend going on right now. But y'all remember like 3 years ago when they was all upset about this? Oh, don't call us NPCs and all this other extra shit. Don't make no damn sense. Oh man. This video is gonna be out of this world. And if you just stay tuned and wait until the end, you're gonna get a surprise, man. But with that being said, that's all I'm gonna say. Let's get into this video.
They tried to tell us in the 80s.
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep.
Oh, goddamn hacker, that second time tonight that I cut in.
The movement was begun 8 months ago by a small group of scientists who discovered, quite by accident, these signals being sent through...
It's giving me a headache. Yeah, tell me about it. Must took the hackers months to figure out how to do this.
The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. They have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices. Their intention to rule rests with the annihilation of consciousness. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. Please understand, they are safe as long as they are not discovered. That is their primary method of
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about troubling and irresponsible, one-sided news stories
plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Does that not make your world a projection rather than a perception? What is the actuality? Do you see the world as you imagine it? Or are you observing what is really there? If reality is just a projection, what happens when the source, when consciousness is absent? Even with an eternity of self-reflection, man cannot understand the difference between actuality and illusion.
Well, why do you think that is? I mean, why is that? I mean, is it just because people are lazy today or they're bored? I mean, are we just like bored, spoiled children who've just been lying in the bathtub all day, just playing with their plastic duck, and now they're just thinking, well, what can I do? Okay, yes. We are bored. We're all bored now. But has it ever occurred to you, Wally, that the process that creates this boredom that we see in the world now may very well be a self-perpetuating, unconscious form of brainwashing created by a world totalitarian government based on money, and that all of this is much more dangerous than one thinks, and it's not just a question of individual survival, Wally, but that somebody who's bored is asleep, and somebody who's asleep will not say no? See, I keep meeting these people. I mean, just a few days ago, I met this man whom I greatly admire. He's a Swedish physicist, Gustav Bjornstrand, and he told me that he no longer watches television, he doesn't read newspapers, and he doesn't read magazines. He's completely cut them out of his life because he really does feel that we're living in some kind of Orwellian nightmare now, and that everything that you hear now contributes to turning you into a robot. When I was at Findhorn, I met this extraordinary English tree expert who had devoted his life to saving trees. Just got back from Washington, lobbying to save the redwoods. He's 84 years old. He always travels with a backpack because he never knows where he's going to be tomorrow. And when I met him at Findhorn, he said to me, "Where are you from?" And I said, "New York." He said, "Ah, New York, yes, that's a very interesting place. Do you know a lot of New Yorkers who keep talking about the fact that they want to leave but never do?" And I said, "Oh, yes." And he said, "Why do you think they don't leave?" I gave him different banal theories. He said, "Oh, I don't think it's that way at all." He said, "I think that New York is the new model for the new concentration camp, where the camp has been built by the inmates themselves, and the inmates are the guards, and they have this pride in this thing they've built. They've built their own prison, and so they exist in a state of schizophrenia, where they are both guards and prisoners, and as a result, they no longer have, having been lobotomized, the capacity to leave the prison they've made, or to even see it as a prison." And then he went into his pocket and he took out a seed for a tree and he said, "This is a pine tree." He put it in my hand and he said, "Escape before it's too late." See, actually for 2 or 3 years now, Chiquita and I have had this very unpleasant feeling that we really should get out. And we really should feel like Jews in Germany in the late 30s. Get out of here. Of course, the problem is where to go, because it seems quite obvious that the whole world is going in the same direction. See, I think it's quite possible that the 1960s represented the last burst of the human being before he was extinguished, and that this is the beginning of the rest of the future now, that from now on there'll simply be all these robots walking around, feeling nothing, thinking nothing, and there'll be nobody left almost to remind them that there once was a species called a human being, with feelings and thoughts, and that history and memory are right now being erased, and soon nobody will really remember that life existed on the planet.
There's people walking around out here that are soulless avatars simply operating on matrix programming. They're living, but they're not alive. And they're all around us. They're all over the place. People that have never woken up to who they truly actually are. They simply are operating on the code that they've been programmed and given since they were born, since they were even in the womb and at gestation. The same code, just running on programming, never exceeding the programming, never reprogramming the programming, never editing it, never hacking themselves, just running on the pure code and living a complete lie, believing that they're alive, but they're not. Powerful stuff. I hope y'all pay attention here. I hope y'all, if you're able to wrap your mind around what I'm talking about tonight, if you can wrap your mind around this, let me see you in the chat. Let me see you guys in the chat. Let me make sure you guys are still paying attention. You guys ain't sleeping out there. This is deep stuff, man. This is some real deep stuff.
This part is very clear. You're nothing but a pawn, and you'll remain a pawn until you play. The rules are clear. Take what they give you, give away what you have to, and the difference is yours. The question is, how big is the difference?
Are you really intending to win?
Well, why not? There are lots like me, and we're the actual players. Because on one side of us are the real cattle, who let TV do the thinking for them, while on the other is power, who believe that we are shit and feeble-minded cattle. Over in the barn, they want us to take care of them. But a long time ago, they gave up on themselves, and now they won't lift a single finger. While those who have real power became more than the rest. Became gods. They sit so high up that they can't see us as either a serious enemy or a trusted friend. They have only one problem, that they're not immortal. That just leaves you and me. Sometimes I benefit you, other times you me. Everyone plays a game of their own.
Think you're a player, do you?
I play like the great ones. Take the authorities. Quite unceremonious, but they do have a few lively plays up their sleeves for the people. Every couple of months, they let them blow off steam. Elections, Black Friday, a new auto plant, the latest installment of Star Wars, the Super Bowl. And the people just gobble it up. But when people have holes in their pockets and nothing to eat, who's responsible for that? So now, without their beer and football, they need a sacrifice. And you can be certain that power will provide them with a patsy. And it'll be us. Understand? So that is the game. Here are people who don't care about themselves, and here's authority that doesn't care about them either. And here we are in the middle, who sort of owe something, but what and to whom? It's not clear.
How pure and simple. You're more naive than you look. But you're right in that we are like butter that is spread between a thin layer of caviar and moldy bread, which reminds me of a fairy tale. Once there lived a poor wolf, and nearby lived a very powerful and rich fox. They grew up together, were in the same class at school, but now they're in different social classes. The fox's life was like a fairy tale. One day the wolf came to him and said, "Teach me to do it. I'm tired of my life and I want to play with the big boys. I want to live like you. Tell me what to do." The fox answered, "Don't sweat it. I'll fix up a place for you. You'll have a cushy job. You'll sit in a chair, quietly catch fish. By the rules. Don't fuss. Take a lot here, a little there. Anything will do." So the wolf nervously looked around and saw that everyone was doing the same thing. And soon, it was all working. He caught big fish and little ones. One day, the fox came to get his share of fish, but the wolf said to him, "Sorry, brother, this fish is stuck to my tail." So the fox went and unstuck it. He cut the wolf's tail off and unstuck the fish. Good thing the wolf wasn't using his for bait. That's what happens when you play by someone else's rules.
Why are you telling me your tale's here? If you're so smart, then maybe you know a way out.
The way out, my colleague, is through the entrance. It's time to get out of this game. Look, yeah, we have money, and what good does it do? There is nothing for us to do in this country. The number of alcoholics and morons is larger than the whole population. It's all polluted, education doesn't exist, and that new auto plant? It is not real. There's no other way than to leave and wipe this nightmare from our brains.
To leave? And who's going to let you do this? You'll never forget this nightmare because it won't ever let you wake up. We do have money, but whose money is it? Is it yours, really? Can you actually spend it? Or offshore it? Can you legalize it? Give it to your children? Don't lie to yourself. Don't be like the others. You're in a trap, and the trap will only open its jaws once you are good and deceased. We can buy our way out of a criminal suit, maybe a nice mansion, a few cars, expensive tutors for the kids, but that's about it. See, you're like a hamster on a wheel, no freedom to be seen while the system rolls right on. Why don't I tell you a fairy tale, my special friend? Once there lived a smart guy like you. He found a job, settled in, and slowly rolled along with his life. Then he looked around and rolled a bit faster. He was allocated a budget and he administered it wisely, and by the rules, he got his cut. You know what I mean? Why would you ever build a fence for $1 million when it can be done for so much more? So he rolled on like this. The books looked good. Sometimes they didn't quite balance, but mostly it was a well-oiled machine. He'd give a taste to get off in court, give a taste to avoid an audit, he'd give a taste to whomever caught him and get away. But came the day he decided, enough. I've made enough for myself and my kids. No more risk. Everything can change. I'm leaving the game. Quietly. I need to move my money out and leave. I got away from Grandma. I got away from Grandpa. I got away from the traffic cop, the prosecutor, and the tax police. And I can get away from you, Mr. Fox.
And what?
What? Just letting him go would have been a total loss for the Fox. Nobody leaves. The Fox hates feisty people. To those who want to leave, he gives a very tough time. Bounces them from the tax police to the DA to court, bleeds them dry and tosses them in jail. You asked for it, gingerbread man. Why are you silent? Hello? Are you even here?
Leave him alone. He looks like he's asleep. What can I say? You seem to be making some good points, so I didn't chime in. So what do you want? To win? Or not to lose?
Not to lose.
It doesn't matter. How is it possible to win or lose in a game where the rules are constantly changing, but are never changed by you? I want to tell you a story too. There once was a turnip that grew very, very big. They started tugging it in different directions, but just couldn't pull it out. The turnip creaks, but it won't come out. Then one smartass said, why don't we just grab the turnip together and pull it in the same direction? They grabbed it, pulled really hard, and pulled out the turnip. It shined gloriously like the sun, so beautiful, so smooth. When the turnip was just sitting there, no one got anything at all. But after it was pulled, everyone had enough. There is one way alone for us to agree amongst ourselves, to finally write some rules ourselves. And that's when it will start. Our game.
The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world, built to keep us under control in order to change a human being into this.
No. I don't believe it. It's impossible.
I didn't say it would be easy. I just said it would be the truth.
Stop. Let me out. Let me out. I want out.
Agent Smith effect. If you're talking to somebody like a friend or a family member about what you saw on TV, everybody's having a great conversation about it. But as soon as you stop and talk about is 9/11 a conspiracy or what they're putting in our food is poison, all of a sudden that person will then change and they'll almost become like a prison guard to stop you from talking about those topics. It's like this matrix programming takes over their body.
While the key feature of the NPC is their inability to think for themselves and regularly regurgitate whatever the new thing that the herd is spouting, one of the other key features that is they have no internal monologue. Now, the key to this is that the herd, or the NPCs in games as well as in real life, greatly outnumber the playable character or main character, or those people with an internal monologue or with an internal voice. Interestingly, a study and subsequent research into the subject found that, well, in this study that was performed on 30 college students, an average of 26% of the participants reported having some sort of internal speech, but some 75% or 74% had absolutely none at all. Other psychologists have estimated that between 30 to 50% of people have an inner monologue, which narrates their thoughts throughout the day, while the rest of people do not. Now, of course, they say that there's nothing to worry about this, but what it does do is it clearly suggests that the majority of people around you have no inner voice. And this is one of the key components of the NPC meme. And this is just an aside, but when you look at vaccination rates by countries, you can clearly see a trend, at least in the Western world where vaccinations are readily available, that those that have taken at least one dose of the vaccine hovers around 82 to 76%, or around 79% as an average. While this is just a correlation, obviously, it does suggest that the vast majority of people will do anything they are told, and in many ways are unable to critically think for themselves and simply parrot the orthodoxies rather than ever challenge these mainstream assumptions, diktats, and the use of coercion in the case of vaccinations. So the herd, or the majority of people, took the vaccine without question, and they took an RNA drug that had no long-term studies attached to it, and there was no understanding of the risks versus benefits because these kinds of conversations were verboten, especially in 2020 and the lead up to the summer of 2021. Most people, it would seem, just believe the funny late night TV joke men or their favorite internet or television celebrity, and that's all it took to bring the majority of people on board. But I should say this, is that none of this is to say that the vaccine is not effective, but we don't know whether it is or not, especially in the long term, because there was no debate allowed. Any mention of short or possible long-term side effects was effectively crushed in the media and censored into oblivion on social media. But again, all I was trying to get at is it looks as though through vaccination in pretty much every Western country, there is a herd that follow the majority, the NPCs, and there is the non-NPCs, if you will, that critically think for themselves and wait for data, for example, and wait for long-term side effects to be recorded before they're going to put something like that into their body. Now then, while many people have no inner voice, there are also those with aphantasia, an absence of visuals in their mind. And Science Alert explains it as such. Aphantasia is a strange condition where some people are unable to visualize images in their mind. For a long time, aphantasia could only be identified thanks to people's self-reported experiences. Now, we may finally have a way to detect it in a different way. In this case, the eyes have it. More specifically, in a new study, aphantasia could be detected based on pupil dilation response. What is known is that our pupils can change size due to cognitive tasks. Basically, what they found was that when test subjects were asked, those with self-reported aphantasia and those without, what they found is that the pupils of individuals with regular visual imagination would still contract and expand, while pupils of individuals with aphantasia didn't change in size to a significant level during tasks that asked them to visualize in their minds. Of course, the results came in and they said that their results provided novel evidence that our pupils respond to the vividness and strength of a visual image being held in the mind. The stronger and more vivid that image is, the greater the pupil's light response was. And of course, the equality statement at the end is that for people with aphantasia, the mental world is different. And this highlights the truly diverse neurological ways in which we all interact with the world. Now, I think it's pretty clear that we do inhabit a world with those that are critical thinkers and those that basically provide blank stares and just regurgitate whatever they're told is right think, either by the media, their favorite celebrity, or by censorious social media. The key, I believe, to avoid the NPC, especially in your progeny, is to teach them to be self-aware and critical thinkers and never believe what they are told on the television, on the internet, or wherever without first examining the issues for themselves. But most importantly, never to believe politicians. It seems like every election cycle, these politicians promise to fix that which has been broken for decades, but which is never fixed. Think of Change We Need, I'm With Her, Make America Great Again, Riding with Biden, Build Back Better. So in the end, I guess I'd like to conclude with the idea, and it comes from the timeless expression that the eyes are the windows to the soul, and that those same eyes now, with this information that we've gleaned through this presentation, we can now, as people, understand the main characters from the non-playable characters in our own world. Both, I should say, like in the games as in real life, are needed to interact within the world that they and we inhabit. So there you have it.
Amidst dreams and codes, I stand at a crossroads. The rabbit hole beckons. My father's creation. His legacy. A realm we called Wonderland. A simulated reality. A game. But Wonderland is not the same. Pixels entwined with memories, both familiar and strange. When she's 10 feet tall. The Queen, hungry for more power over her world.
Did you ever see an oyster walk? Did you ever hear a turtle talk? Did you ever see a caterpillar puffing on a pipe? Or a mouse with a sail on the tip of its tail? Certain little girl once did, and she got into a hole, poor kid. Yeah, she got into a hole of a funny old bunny, and down, down, down she slid. But before you understand, the girl was Alice, and little Alice, thrilled she could be. The place was Wonderland, where even rabbits have human habits.
What is MK Ultra? MK Ultra was a top-secret program conducted by the CIA back in the 1950s and 60s. The goal? To explore mind control and manipulation techniques. The CIA investigated potential methods for extracting information, altering memories, and controlling human behavior. They believed these techniques would be useful in covert operations and intelligence gathering. The CIA conducted a series of experiments on both willing and unwitting subjects, including civilians, prisoners, and even their own agents. One of the most notorious aspects of MK Ultra involved the use of mind-altering drugs like LSD. The CIA wanted to test the effects of these substances on individuals' behavior and susceptibility to suggestion. Many of the experiments carried out were highly unethical and raised serious concerns about human rights and consent. Eventually, the program's existence was exposed, leading to congressional hearings and investigations. MK Ultra became a symbol of government overreach and the potential dangers of unchecked experimentation. So the question is, as citizens, If people in power are willing to go against their own people, how far are they willing to go?
Yeah, new scene, so I'm out and about. But I had to make sure I add this into the video. I'm not calling everybody NPCs or Agent Smiths or anything. But to say that there's people who aren't up, everything's not up here, they're all in their phones and shit, you can clearly tell people who are programmed and people who are not programmed. You can clearly see authentic people from people who are copying other people. You feel me? It's not that hard to see. You know what I mean? I would say that the people who are copying after people are the ones you need to watch out for. Them are the ones that say one thing and do another. Because they copying after people. They're not true to themselves. See, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And that's a lot of people, they don't stand for anything. They just stand for things that are in the moment. What's trending. You know what I mean? So watch out for the people who's all about these trends, these gossipers and shit like that. Because, man, it gets wild, guys. But with that being said, I hope y'all like the video. And if you rocking with the content, man, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Come join my tribe. Tribe of Alexander. The Greats. We're going to have a good one, guys. And, with that being said, I'm out. Till the next video. Gone.